Good evening and welcome back to From Day One, Part 2 of today's episode. As always, let's check the mailbag first to see what we've got since the last time you and I have been together. And as we approach tonight's Part 2, I'm actually glad that I did not go ahead and give airing to Glenn I'm a fucking moron scenario. Because there's actually been a few developments of Moron de Moron cereal. As we talked about yesterday, he went back to the same police station, and yes, we got the footage, and got himself arrested. Again. Creeping out the same female officer. Again. Yeah, that's Glenn for you. Then, the biggest hope is that we wouldn't hear anything from him till Tuesday, as he wouldn't go ahead and get a court appearance until that point, due to the holiday, Martin Luther King Jr. Day here in America for Monday. Unfortunately, Glenn I'm a moron Serio somehow managed to get a $1,000 bond. Sorry, $10,000 bond, my apologies, placed on him that he was somehow able to pay. And as of time of this recording, Sunday, he is currently back on the outside with the rest of us. Alright, so line 1 on 3, line 2 on 1. Okay, I'm actually going to just flip 1 and 3 and we should be okay. I'm thinking. This one, actually. Because line 3 should be enough to handle that group, you would think. And since I'm thinking that it could be very likely that on the next day we could get even more serial bullshit. So I really don't want to give him even more play. Tonight, wait until we have the story. Actually, no, switch it back. So I went into the archives and we got some good old flatter morons. And I think we can ring up the ding count pretty high tonight. Instead So that being said, we're going to start with Lee McMurtry with his video known as Flat Earth Basics 101. And of course, we're going to rip the holy living shit out of it with my good friend, Father Skeptic. Let's begin.
Show me a spinning globe. Show me a spinning globe without NASA's pictures.
So there aren't a lot of videos coming from non-space agencies from space. But that doesn't mean videos of the spinning Earth don't exist. Here's a video from the Discover satellite, which orbits Earth in Lagrange point 1. This allows the satellite to observe the Earth spinning on its axis. Here's the most recent time-lapse from NASA's Discover website.
Think of if this world spun at 1,000 miles per hour, right? Think of the weather it would create. It would create unbelievable, unlivable weather.
You're an idiot.
Maybe if the atmosphere was stationary relative to the spinning Earth. If this were the case, then the Earth would be spinning at 1,000 miles per hour underneath the atmosphere at the equator. And yeah, that would result in some fucked up weather. Fortunately for us, the atmosphere also rotates around the axis of the Earth at 15 degrees per hour. So on a large scale, it's relatively stationary with the surface of the Earth. This allows us to treat the rotating surface of the Earth and atmosphere as a single rotating reference frame.
Also, water cannot be taught to be magnetic. Stick upside down.
Joseph Green, you're an idiot. Water can't be taught to be anything because water is not a sentient being to begin with and has no form of intelligence. Water does, however, have magnetic properties as it's diamagnetic, meaning that magnetic fields repel water, which brings us to our next mega stupid comment of the day. The bottom of the Earth is not upside down, you idiot! At every position on the surface, down is towards the center of the Earth, or in the direction of the gravitational pull. I still can't understand how flat earthers don't understand this concept, and for that matter, I can't understand why flat earthers still think the Earth is flat.
You know why? It's because this Earth proves itself to us.
That's exactly my point. Other than the local section of land on this massive sphere that we live on, all other evidence points exclusively at the shape of the Earth being a sphere. Any other shape just wouldn't work with daily observations. So if you're a flat earther, then you're a fucking idiot.
They're going about. I've got one guy who's really pissing me off by gravity, and it's density versus mass or buoyancy.
Wait, did you just say that gravity is only density versus mass or buoyancy? Yeah, you're a fucking idiot. Because I'm not sure that you understand that density is directly proportional to the amount of mass in an object, and that really doesn't explain gravity, or that the buoyancy equation has an acceleration variable. You know, acceleration, like gravity. But please enlighten us to why things actually accelerate to the ground.
That's all it is. If it's heavier in the air it's in, it comes down, obviously.
Well, it's confirmed. You're an idiot.
The water, when it's called sea level, it's called sea level. It's because it's sea and it's level.
Oh, fuck off! And that's, by the way, because it's called fuck and it's called off. But Skeptic, you wanted to say something?
Wrong. It's called sea level because it is the mean elevation of the world's seas or oceans, and it is the same distance or at the same level from the center of the Earth.
I mean, humans have been going on for hundreds of centuries, and yet there's never been one case where a meteor has hit the moon.
Joseph Green, you're an idiot, because that's completely incorrect. While it is rare to catch a meteoroid or asteroid hitting the near side of the moon, it has been caught before. Here is a video from 2013 showing a meteoroid hitting the moon, and here's another one from 2019 also showing a meteoroid hitting the moon.
And yet, we keep on getting threatened that meteors are going to hit the Earth.
According to Robert Frost of NASA, while the moon takes on about 6,000 pounds a day, or 3 tons of meteoroid material, the Earth is bombarded with about 100 tons of meteoroid material daily. Now you might say, 100 tons a day seems like a lot. Wouldn't we notice this? You see, there's a difference between the Earth and the moon in regards to the meteoroid impacts. The Earth is enveloped in a thick atmosphere that the Moon simply does not have. This atmosphere generates friction with the fast-moving meteoroids as they approach the Earth's surface. This intense heat causes most meteoroids to explode or incinerate in our atmosphere, at which point we classify that meteoroid as a meteor. However, if the meteoroids are large enough and made from the right material, a few of them will survive their journey through the atmosphere and impact the Earth. These meteoroids are then classified as meteorites.
But there's never been one instance where a meteor has ever hit anything. And if it does, it should lodge itself in, but it's never there.
Typically, when a meteorite hits the Earth, it impacts the surface at about 200 to 400 miles per hour, due to its shape and terminal velocity. If you took a rock and fired it at 300 miles per hour at the ground, what are the chances that that rock will still be intact? Also, what are the chances that we're going to see some kind of evidence of the impact even if the rock doesn't survive? This is typically what happens when a meteorite hits the surface. Not only does it break up into smaller pieces, but it also leaves an impact crater, as shown here at the Meteor Crater National Landmark in Arizona.
The moon is a moonlight.
No, the moon is not a moonlight, you idiot. Moonlight is reflected sunlight from the surface of the moon. If the moon was its own light source, then it wouldn't have any shadows on its craters, and we would never see phases of the moon.
It tells you in the Bible in Genesis, heavens above. It can't be heavens below. It's heavens above. I'm just trying to explain things.
Well, you're a fucking idiot, and you're doing a really shitty job. But we have only just begun, so let's continue.
Oh God, we got more?
You've got to understand that a spinning globe and getting these lovely tides that just lap up on a beach and, and you get that lovely, relaxed air. I'm sorry, but I just don't read that. I just don't read it. I just don't get it.
No one is going to actually hold that against you. Dynamic tidal theory is a very complicated subject to understand. Most people believe it's just the gravitational pull of the moon pulling the surface of the water up as it passes by, but that doesn't explain the high tide on the opposite side of the Earth. The truth of the matter is that there is quite a bit of science that goes into explaining the tides in detail, but we aren't going to cover that today.
Thank God.
And for NASA to take 53 million off the public every day. I mean, I got the guy that said it's pointless going back to the moon now. Cornwall, 1888. Well, why still take 53 million a day then and say they're going to go to Mars and yet they can't get to the moon?
So this argument is starting to get old. First off, NASA has a manned moon mission planned for 2024. And while the logistics of putting a man on Mars are actively being discussed, a realistic time frame for any manned mission to Mars is several decades away. On the other hand, how exactly do people like this idiot think that the innovations and research are going to come to fruition without help from the taxpayers? And $53 million a day is chump change to a global cabal whose sole purpose is to lie and steal money from the people. I mean, we have more than 300 million American citizens today. If only 1/3 of them were taxpayers from which NASA funded its entire budget, that would only be about 50 cents a day per person. Hardly something to bitch about.
It was stated, your high flyer from NASA says, we don't have the technology to go back to the moon. And yet in 50 years forward, 50 years ahead, you look at the cars from 1950 to the cars, the cars at 2029. Everything has progressed, and you're telling me that they can't go back to the moon. But they could send a signal up to a moon buggy and get it started. It's fucking hilarious.
What's fucking hilarious is that you believed whatever whack job idiot that told you that they start the lunar rovers or moon buggies up with a radio signal from Earth. The lunar rovers, or LRVs, had 2 silver zinc non-rechargeable batteries that gave them a range of a little less than 100 kilometers.
Have a look at your flight class. Now it states it's 22 hours from UK to Australia. And yet it's only 15 from California to Australia. And yet we're 9 hours. 7 hours to New York, and then you'll be another 9 hours from New York to California.
I'm still not 100% sure what his argument is here. He says it's 22 hours to fly from England to Australia, but it's 15 hours from Australia to California, and 7 hours from England to New York, and 9 hours across the US. It's almost as if it's shorter in one direction than it is in the other direction. And I'm not sure what airline you use, but non-stop from New York to LA is a 6-hour flight, not 9. Am I missing something here?
Go look on the flat Earth.
Yeah, I think the moron's actually trying to count the 3 hours of time zone difference in his facetious argument of 9 hours there, skeptic.
Map of the United Nations. And also, if you look at the United Nations flat Earth map, right, they put it in your face, and yet people just don't open their eyes to see it. It's a sonar. It's a big fucking sonar with a grid map as a flat Earth.
No, the Flat Earth map is not a range-finding system that uses acoustic waves, you fucking idiot. I think what you mean to say is that the Flat Earth map looks like the UN map, which is very similar to a PPI display, which is sometimes used in a sonar system. Because not all sonar systems use a PPI display, and not all PPI displays are used exclusively in sonar systems.
And if you look at that, you can see why it's only 15 hours from California to Australia, and it's 22 hours from us. I mean, if you do a flight from Southern America, why does it just not go across to South Africa if it was going to something like Australia, and then from South Africa right across? Every flight seems to come up into Central and then back down again.
You're an idiot. Direct flights from Santiago, Chile to Sydney, Australia fly south of New Zealand, not north, taking them closer to Antarctica, not further away. Here's an image from FlightAware, an online flight path tracking website from the day I recorded this video, showing an active flight en route from Santiago, Chile to Sydney, Australia. Comparing this picture to the Great Circle that connects the 2 points, it's quite clear to see why an airline would choose this path to take, as it's the shortest path between 2 points on a sphere.
Space is a joke. Planets are a joke.
And flat earthers are
Our
fucking
biggest
idiots.
jokes.
In the Bible, right? I'm not a religious person. In the Bible, it says that heaven's above. And all the religious people, the Aztec, the Mayans, the Egyptians, it's all in the prophecies that the firmament above, with the moon and stars and sun all encased.
You mean it would be like people who were thousands of years ago who didn't know what the fuck was going on? That'd be like us having somebody in the year 4020 looking back at what we thought here in 2020 and going, man, those people were stupid. You're trying to go and hold their knowledge from 2,000 years ago as, hey, we didn't learn nothing in 2,000 years. That's what it is still. I'm assuming Skeptic will be along shortly to laugh at him as well.
Wow! You're an idiot!
Yeah?
Of course they all agree that it looks like the sun and the stars are all locked in the moving heavens. And of course it doesn't feel like we are moving or spinning or flying through the universe either. But that's expected when you're sitting on top of a ball that's spinning 15 degrees an hour with a circumference of almost 25,000 miles and in the vast expanse of nothingness known as space. So what's your fucking point?
I mean, if you go and type in Project Fishbowl and the United Nations Treaty, what does that tell you? The United Nations Treaty basically means no cunt is allowed to go to the Antarctic or the North Pole on their own free will.
Again, just bad information from a misinformed idiot. The Arctic Circle doesn't have a UN-sanctioned treaty to govern the area. That area is governed by several of the nations that are located in and around the Arctic Circle, and a few of the more prominent governments of the UK. The UN Treaty, also known as the UN Charter, doesn't even talk about Antarctica or the Arctic, as it is designed to protect the human rights of individuals around the world. What you are talking about is the Antarctic Treaty, which simply states that Antarctica will remain free from any country's possession and ensures that scientific and logistical assistance between politically competing countries is always maintained. Your own country may have rules and regulations for exploring Antarctica on your own, however, that is aside from the Antarctic Treaty.
And the Project Fishbowl was the time where they found the edge of the firmament and they tried to blow it up.
Wrong again. Project Fishbowl was designed to test the effects nuclear bombs would have on the upper atmosphere. Specifically, the electromagnetic pulse, or EMP, associated with high-altitude detonations, and the drop in radio communications, which was crucial to understand, especially during times of war. The most significant and highest elevation of detonation was Starfish Prime, which detonated at about 250 miles in elevation. If the purpose was to blow up the firmament, then that would mean that the firmament is also at about 250 miles in elevation, well within modern radar capabilities. If this were the case, then with today's technology, we should be able to receive a reflected signal off of the firmament and determine precisely its physical elevation. However, this is not the case, because the Earth is not flat, there is no firmament, and flat earthers are fucking idiots.
It's all stated online, it's all stated on YouTube, it's all stated on paperwork, but yet everybody thinks it's a fucking spinning globe. It does not move, nothing moves. It's fixed.
I'm sorry, but outside of geocentric and flat earth websites, nowhere else does it say that people think we're living on a fixed, immovable plane. Everywhere else, it says that we're living on a spinning planet that's orbiting the sun and flying through space. But flat earth idiots and geocentaurs seem to be the only ones who have figured out the truth though, and everyone else is wrong. Yeah, you guys can get fucked.
If I put water in a fucking jar in a clear cup and turn it sideways, it stays flat. You cannot stick it to stay level at the same as the fucking cup.
Oh my god, you're an idiot. Water is a liquid, and liquids conform to the shape of their container. However, the action of the water on the inside of the jar as you turn it gives you the other part of that picture. Water is always being pulled down towards the surface of the earth. Otherwise, when you turn that glass of water, it wouldn't have any reason to align itself with the pull of gravity. It's a great proof for the existence of gravity and an absolute killer for every other flat earth argument out there.
And then there's other ones that go on about gravity. It takes every molecule of water and forces it down. Individually, it picks every molecule of water. Really? And yet it allows so much water to be, to go up in the atmosphere to create rain.
Oh boy, I'm actually kind of excited. I thought I was going to go the whole video without having to give some actual science, but it looks like I was proven wrong. So why do rain clouds float, when water is obviously more dense than air? Well, the first misconception that many people have is that clouds are made of water vapor, which is less dense than dry air. While water vapor is less dense than dry air, clouds are actually made up of individual water molecules, not water vapor. When the water molecules are small, they contain less mass, and as they coalesce into larger raindrops, they gain mass and volume. Now the water droplets appear to float due to the drag force of the atmosphere. So when they are small, they fall slowly, like very slowly. We're talking about meters per year slow. However, as the raindrop increases in size, the force of gravity pulling down on the raindrop will be roughly proportional to the radius of the raindrop cubed, while the drag force will only be roughly proportional to the radius of the raindrop squared. So as the raindrop grows, the force of gravity becomes much greater than the drag force holding it up, and the raindrop will begin to noticeably fall faster.
We're just a big fishbowl, that's all we are. That's how we never run dry of water. It recycles, goes up and comes back down again.
So let's stick with science. The water cycle consists of the heating up of the ocean surface and evaporating the ocean water into water vapor. The water vapor cools as it rises and condenses into water droplets to form clouds. Inside of the clouds, the smaller raindrops coalesce into larger drops until they're large enough to fall to the ground as rain due to gravity. And finally, the water will eventually make its way back out to sea, where it will start the process all over again. This is a natural and very easily explainable process, and does not require us to live in a fishbowl, you idiot.
Listen, I'm just putting my point out there. I'm not saying right and wrong, but it makes more right to me that it's flat and motionless.
Well, thank goodness that science doesn't stop searching for a deeper truth than what we think makes sense to an uneducated flat earth idiot.
Think of the weather. Just ask yourself that. If it span at 1,000 miles an hour, what would the weather be like? It would be unlivable.
Citation fucking needed. Because the Earth already spins at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, and the weather is perfectly fine. Well, okay, so there are a few hurricanes that are a bit fucked up. But hurricanes actually help prove that we are indeed living on a spinning sphere. I'll give just one example. The direction of rotation of hurricanes is a direct consequence of the Coriolis force, which is a fictitious force only present in a rotating reference frame. The fact that hurricanes spin in opposite directions on either side of the equator means that the Earth and its atmosphere is spinning on an axis which is perpendicular to the equatorial plane. If the Earth were a non-rotating disk, then we would need an explanation for the Coriolis forces that we observe in nature. And if the Earth is a spinning disk, then we would have Coriolis forces present. However, they would always be in the same direction, regardless of which side of the equator the hurricane is on. Sorry guys, the Earth is spinning, it's not flat, and flat earthers are fucking idiots.
And if flat earthers were that bad and that stupid, why is it the biggest movement ever in the last 10 years ever?
Probably because it's filled with morons and idiots like you who say that flat earth is the greatest movement ever in the last 10 years ever. That doesn't even make any fucking sense. And let's not forget that today's flat earth movement pales in comparison to the number of flat earthers in 1000 BCE. The only difference is they have an excuse for believing the earth was flat, while your only excuse is that you're an idiot. So I think this is going to be where we end the video today.
Aw, we know more of him. Alright, we can save our brain cells. Alright, give me a moment as we continue to fight through the dungeon. Or the fungeon. And we'll get another moron up. To continue our fight here in Dominion. Let me go through the tapes. No. Save at the odd. Yeah. Flat Earther can't find the sun. That sounds like a good one. Why? Because I said so.
While we'll be cutting out small portions of the original video.
Okay, let's get through this idiot. Yes, idiot, 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 idiot. Fast forward, fast forward.
Comments, or questions, comments, concerns, whatever, from global believers who say they cannot believe in the flat earth because of ABC reasons. I mean, a lot of this.
Yeah, the idea that the earth is flat is tantamount to the idea that Hogwarts Academy truly exists. People who believe in the heliocentric model, at least the people who are informed on what the model truly represents, are going to need you to provide explanations for more than just A, B, and C reasons. The flat earth models are going to need explanations for A, B, and C reasons, alpha to omega reasons, and 1 to 1 million reasons. And even that wouldn't cover all the holes in their flawed models. The fact that flat earthers don't even have a working model that conforms to observational reality is the only explanation that flat earthers owe anyone, including themselves. Flat earthers, more fittingly described as globe deniers, are fucking idiots.
So I think I'm going to start up this new series. This is going to be part 1. Okay, I don't know how many parts I'm going to do. We'll see. It's going to be part 1 of explaining ridiculously basic flat earth facts.
Flat earth facts. Let's see if we can name them all. Fact number 1. Not backed by any field of science, nor acknowledged by any institution of education. Fact number 2. Has never been photographed by anyone in the history of man, but dates back over 6,000 years in the past. Fact 3. Does not exist except in the mind of the mentally disabled flat earth idiots.
Now, I know what you guys are going to say. We've heard it a million times. Blah, 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 blah. I get it.
Oh, so therefore we can stop this video. Now that was awesome. Oh, wait. What? There's more? Ah, fuck.
But it can't be that we've heard it a million times, because I'm still getting these same comments of people saying, why can't I see Mount Everest from my house? Why can't I see England from my house? Why can't I see whatever, the Great Wall of China? I get all kinds of ridiculous comments that you would think are pretty basic by now, that have already been answered in many other videos.
Well, just because you give a bullshit answer that makes sense with your limited level of intelligence does not mean that critical thinkers are going to accept it, especially when the questions being asked of you are legitimate questions. Seeing Eastern Europe from Western North America is an exaggerated example of what people are actually trying to say, which is why can't we see something a few hundred miles away if there are no obstructions in your line of sight? I recently read an article from Forbes magazine explaining why you can't see Kauai Kini from the peak of Mauna Kea. If the earth were flat, then there would be nothing stopping you from seeing one peak from the other. However, if the earth were spherical in nature, then anything beyond the visual horizon will no longer be able to be seen by any person, even if they pulled out the strongest optical telescope known to man. This is because the earth's surface is curved and M. Benz is an idiot.
I keep getting these same comments over and over and over and over and over from you heliocentric enthusiasts.
Well, I'd rather be a heliocentric enthusiast than a fucking flat earth idiot.
So, it's part 1 of me answer some ridiculously easy, basic flat earth questions, concerns versus the globe earth thing. So today we're going to talk about sunlight.
Ridiculously easy questions about sunlight, huh? I bet your answers are as ridiculously stupid as well, especially since flat earthers think the sun is only 30 miles wide and 3,000 miles in the atmosphere. Oh yeah, I guess I forgot about the flat earth idiots that think the sun is actually in the clouds. Flat earthers can't even get the position of their most prominent celestial body correct in their fairy tale models, and yet they still refuse to accept the heliocentric model's explanation, which gives us accurate prediction power and leaves us with more answers than questions.
And sunlight. There seems to be a big debate on why people cannot believe that the earth is flat is because of sunlight and time zones.
I believe the typical argument for time zones being a problem for flat Earth comes from earlier models of the flat Earth, which have the sun going under the Earth, which would result in the entire Earth going dark at the same time. This can be seen in the ancient Egyptians' depictions of the flat Earth model. In that model, the sun lit the Earth for 12 hours, and nighttime was caused by the sun going under the Earth to illuminate the underworld for 12 hours. Most modern flat Earth idiots don't believe the sun disappears under the Earth, but instead they believe that the sun makes an impossible circular track that seems to go between the two tropics and crosses the equator on the equinox twice a year. Now, we won't be covering all the discrepancies between the flat Earth sun and observational reality in this video. We will, however, cover a few during this video and a few in his next video, which is part 1.5.
You gotta clear your mind. If you're heliocentric enthusiast, clear your mind. Stop believing in right now that the Earth is this big, giant ball of fire.
So I know you meant to say that the sun was a giant ball of fire, but that is just as wrong as saying that the earth was a giant ball of fire, because the sun is not a ball of fire. It's a spherical collection of gas that is trying to collapse on itself due to its own gravitational attraction of its particles. The pressure from this collapse causes the core of the gas ball to undergo nuclear fusion, which then creates a pressure pushing outwards. These two pressures will balance out until the end of the star's life. And if you want me to stop believing the sun is a large ball of nuclear fusing gas, then you are going to have to provide a more viable and verifiable option.
Okay, stop believing that the Earth is, forgot how many times bigger than the Earth. You gotta just let that notion go.
According to the heliocentric model, the sun is approximately 109 times wider than the Earth, 333,000 times heavier than the Earth, and has 1.3 million times the volume. And again, for me to abandon the scientific consensus, you must first provide me a better explanation of what the sun is, where it is actually located, and how does it produce the energy that we receive.
That's the first key into understanding how sunlight works on our flat plane, is let go of the notion that the sun is infinitely times bigger than the Earth, and it's a big giant ball of fire out there in outer space, and we revolve around it.
So this is the third consecutive time that you have said that we must let go of everything we know in order to understand why idiots think the Earth is flat. Even if I were to disregard everything I've ever learned in school, two things that I can never let go of is my critical thinking and logical reasoning. I don't need to know how big the sun is to know that its position in the sky debunks the flat Earth. The flat Earth model has the ability to make only one accurate prediction based on their sun's position, which is the subsolar point on Earth, or the point on Earth directly underneath the sun. If one were to make predictions based on both models and check those predictions against observable reality, they would be left with only one viable option. The sun is not small and local, and flat earthers are fucking idiots for thinking it is.
That is the first thing you need to understand the next part I'm going to say. The first thing you need to do right now is just drop that notion. Even if it's hard for you to get past your cognitive dissonance, just for a minute, just go with me, okay? Just follow me here.
So again, you need to tell us to forget everything we learned to prepare us to understand the bullshit you're about to say. And I'm not sure why flat earthers believe heliocentrists have inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, at least when it comes to the heliocentric model, which is the definition of cognitive dissonance. Now, I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not going to go too much into cognitive dissonance, but I would like to point out how many flat earthers refuse to believe that space and satellites exist, but then turn around and rely on GPS for accurate navigation. In my opinion, it's the flat earthers who are the ones suffering from cognitive dissonance, but flat earthers are fucking idiots.
Now let's imagine that the sun was 3,000 miles in the sky instead of 93,000 miles away. It was 3,000 miles in the sky, and it was small and localized.
Oh, we don't believe the sun is 93,000 miles away. We believe it to be 93 million miles away, you idiot. The sun being 93,000 miles away would present just as many problems with daily observations as a sun that is only 3,000 miles away, especially since it would be within the orbit of the moon and we would never get a solar eclipse. This is where I begin to have a problem with the flat earth model. In order for you to be a true flat earther, you would have to disregard everything you know to be true and accept things you know to be impossible.
And it projected small and localized beams over a section of the flat plane that it was over.
And by what mechanism does the sun project beams of light in only certain localized portions of the earth? In other words, why does the sun project more light downwards than it does laterally? Now, I've heard every argument under the sun describing the supernatural abilities of the flat earth sun. And with all the exceptions and special pleading that comes with the flat earth sun, it has led me to believe that it is flat earthers who are the true sun worshippers.
Now, let's not forget, the flat plane is very large. It's not like I cannot see, I'm in California, I cannot see New York from here. Like, that's just, you know what I mean? That's just us in North America. It's just the United States of America. I cannot see that far. So for me, seeing all the way from here to whatever, Japan or China, is ridiculous. The sun isn't that bright, small and localized. So it projects a beam over, so say this is just Hear me out. Say this is California. Okay, let's just pretend this is California.
Flat earthers and their need for pretending. They pretend the earth is flat. They pretend the sun is small and local. They pretend due east and west are circles while due north and south are straight lines. Why don't you end the pretending and model out your assertions so that you can make an actual case for your failed belief system? Maybe it's due to the fact that you can't model out a small and local sun and still keep it consistent with observational reality. M. Benz, enough of your pretending. It's time to realize that the earth is not flat and you are a fucking idiot.
This is Japan. You're in Japan. You say, well, the sun, I should be able to see the sun all the way over here if it's here, right?
Well, if the earth is flat, then there should never be a time when you can't see the sun, as there would never be a time when the sun drops below the earth. I'm not going to do the math explaining why this is a problem because Cool Hard Logic has already done this to perfection. I highly suggest watching his video series, Testing Flat Tards, which points out the impossibilities of the flat earth model. A link to the series will be provided in the description.
Well, you can't, because if it's small and localized, it's not going to light up all the way. It's not going to stretch across the whole flat plane if it's small and localized.
And why wouldn't it? Light reduces in intensity by 1 over the square of the distance to the light source, meaning that if you get twice the distance from a light source, the intensity of the light will only be 1/4 of its strength. So while a small local sun may not illuminate the entire Earth, as shown in the picture of the light bulb, it will still be able to be seen as a dim object in the sky by every observer on the other side of the flat Earth. Even if it was too dim to be detected by the human eye, infrared instrumentation would easily be able to pick up the heat signature and its position in the sky. These observations should be easy to perform by any flat earther interested in strengthening their case. However, no such measurements have ever been taken, because the sun is not small and local, the earth is not flat, and flat earthers are fucking idiots.
And then people go, well, that doesn't make sense. So, have you ever seen a candle? Have you ever seen a light? Have you ever seen a flashlight? You turn on a flashlight in a dark room, it doesn't, if you're in a large, let's say you're in a large dark warehouse, turn on one flashlight, it doesn't automatically bright up the whole warehouse. With a flashlight, it does not. Am I correct?
Yeah, okay. A small flashlight would not light up an entire large dark warehouse. However, an observer standing on the other side of the warehouse would still be able to see the light coming from the flashlight. This is why we tell you that the sun should never set on a flat earth. And while it might not illuminate your local area of Earth, it should always be visible as at least a point of light in the sky.
So, you gotta think of it kind of like that. Small and localized light that travels around the flat plane. Now we can get into the debate of how it travels, what path it takes. We're not talking about that right now.
Of course you don't want to talk about that right now. The mechanism by which your model works and the physical properties of the flat earth are not important to you because the flat earth have yet to come up with an explanation that is consistent with observation. The only thing flat earthers can agree with is to disagree with the scientific consensus without a scientific explanation as to why. Flat earthers are fucking idiots.
The sun does not set and rise, with the turning of the earth like they tell you. So we're going to have to let that notion go for the next part I'm about to say.
I love how M. Benz asserts that the sun doesn't set and rise, and that we are going to have to ignore reality to understand how his fantasy world works. So I'll put away all preconceived notions that I have about the solar system, and I'll just use critical thinking and common sense to determine whether what you're about to say is intelligent or idiotic.
The sun moves across the flat plane, and it drifts away from your perspective. And that's what creates the rising and setting effect.
Well, that didn't take long. Just like every other flat earther, you're a fucking idiot, because you don't understand perspective. While perspective will cause the sun to appear to drop in elevation as it moves further from an observer and appear to rise as it moves towards the observer, at no time does perspective dictate that the sun should appear to drop below the horizon. There are a few other verifiably incorrect observations that can be made by every observer on Earth using perspective. First, due to perspective, the sun should change in angular size throughout the day, getting smaller as it drifts away from the observer and increasing in size as it moves towards the observer, being largest at solar noon and smallest at solar midnight. There have yet to be any evidence that back this anticipated observation. And secondly, due to perspective, the angular speed of the sun should change throughout the day as well, getting faster and faster as it approaches an observer and slower as it recedes from the observer. The problem I see here is that any person can track the sun to see that it always moves throughout our celestial sphere at 15 degrees per hour. Like I said before, you should really check out Cool Hard Logic's channel if you haven't already. He does an amazing job detailing what exactly the flat earth model predicts and why exactly you have to be a fucking idiot to be a flat earther.
It drifts away from your perspective, and once it's all the way gone from your perspective, it creates new time zones. So when the sun goes from here to all the way over here, now you're night, they're day. Different time zones.
Benz, you're a fucking idiot. Do you even know what you were implying here? If the sun needs to leave your perspective to create a new time zone, then on the equinoxes there would only be 2 time zones, as the sun would be visible to you for exactly 12 hours a day. The only time it would not be visible to you is after sunset and before sunrise. I refuse to stop calling flat earthers fucking idiots until they agree to stop saying stupid shit like this.
So, I don't know. To me, it's pretty basic. It's pretty simple. It's easy for me to understand because my mind was already open and I was willing to let go of the textbook NASA garbage that I learned in school.
Well, it's quite obvious to me that you haven't retained any of your education from when you were schooled, unless you dropped out of school in the 3rd grade. So far, you haven't presented anything that can't be explained with the most basic understanding of the fundamental sciences combined with just a little bit of critical thinking and logical deduction.
Party out there, which level of education you possess? Does it matter?
Yes, it fucking matters, especially if the intention is to prove either the Earth is flat or non-spherical in nature.
I'll give you the answer. The answer is none! None! He's got none! Oh, sorry, skeptic.
Everything you've said so far has been blind assertions without evidence to back them, complete ignorance or stupidity of optics and light propagation, a lack of understanding as to what a time zone is, and 100% proof that you are a fucking idiot.
Because I've let go a lot of that garbage textbook learning to open my mind to new ideas and new ways of thinking.
So you've essentially regressed 6,000 years in human intelligence and advancements. I wouldn't be bragging about that.
And that's what I'm trying to do with you guys is say, hey, just for a minute, maybe you don't have to let it all go, but just for a minute, start to understand, start to think differently.
Oh, I get it. So let go of any knowledge that violates the flat earth model and retain any knowledge that allows for its possibility. Why don't we just let all of our knowledge go and just use some basic observations to model out the shape of the planet we live on? Without using a single bit of science, we can logically deduce that living on a flat plane is an impossibility, and understand that the planet we live on needs 2 points of rotational axis, known on our model as the North and South Pole. Until we find sharp bends on the Earth's surface suggesting that the 3-dimensional object we live on is anything but spherical, we must conclude that the Earth is a sphere, and flat earthers are fucking idiots.
Look at the sun, or in our day sky. Look at the sun, okay? It doesn't look like it's 93 million miles away.
Well, if you deny the size of the sun as being really fucking huge, then yes, it couldn't possibly be that far away. But there is one observation that anyone can make every day of the year, which is the observation of the sunrise and sunset. The only way for the sun to rise and set at the same position for every observer on Earth means that the sun is extremely large, at least larger than the Earth. Combining that knowledge with the measurable angular size of the sun, we can also logically deduce that the sun must be far away. These simple observations simply cannot be reproduced using any flat Earth model. Therefore, the flat Earth is a fairy tale, and flat earthers are idiots.
If all that makes sense on our flat Earth, why do you guys argue it so hard to say it makes sense for the ball Earth?
Because for it to make sense on your flat Earth, you have to disregard everything that proves that the flat Earth is impossible. And there has yet to be a single piece of flat Earth evidence that also proves that the Earth cannot be a globe.
Now, I guess if you believe in things that we can't prove, you've never been to the sun. You never been in space. You never been 93 million miles away. You just read it in a book somewhere, right? And you believe it.
And you've never seen a picture of the flat Earth, but you still believe that the Earth is flat. The hypocrisy from the flat Earth community is evidence of their special pleading and blatant cognitive dissonance, and is one of the main reasons that I believe flat Earthers are fucking idiots.
When you think about it like that, it makes perfect sense. That explains it. So, like I said, it's a new thing I'm trying. This is part 1. I'm going to answer another question in part 2. That video to come soon.
M. Benz, you can count on me destroying your scientific misconceptions and your idiotic assertions with every video you put out. I love when flat earthers put their limited understanding of science and their lack of critical thinking on display for everyone else to laugh at, because all flat earthers are fucking idiots.
Yes, they are. They are fucking idiots. Aren't they? Alrighty, so we have about another 10 minutes or less to go. Definitely not enough time to get into another freaking Silver Citizen or Flat Earther. So how about we polish it off with some Karens? Karens.
Exciting to hit me with a hammer because I was walking on the sidewalk. I never went. You walked up on the sidewalk. I never went to your car. I never went near your car. I'm on the sidewalk. You fucking walked on. You lying out your ass. Oh, I am. When did I go near your car? I'm still ain't near your fucking car. I was fucking you up. Yeah, you know what? You fucking walked up on my fucking son. Nobody walked up on nobody. You just jumped out the car at me. You just jumped out the car at me.
Karen, put down the hammer.
I'm fucking taking care of myself. Yeah, I need a fucking police officer now. This bitch just tried to fucking threaten my son. Nobody threatens your fucking son, you lying bitch. You're lying to me, threaten your kid. You threaten my kid. It's at 1201 West 6th Street in Davenport right now. Right now, there is 5 people out here trying to swing on me. She's lying out her ass. I got you on video. You're fucking lying, bitch. I got you on video. You're lying. Because I got you on video. Now you're lying. Fucking videotape me. Get the fuck off my car. Do you see us swinging?
Fortunately, the place that I'm getting from has put the music track on, not me. But she's still yelling at the 911 officer.
I'm videoing the whole thing. Yes, she's got 5 people out here, and I didn't do shit to her. She fucking hit me. No, you. She fucking hit me. I guess it's too hard.
Hi, your entire video, Karen, there's been no hitting other than you hitting her with the hammer.
You're the one that got out of the truck when I walked down the sidewalk. Nobody come up to you. Go ahead, fucking come up to me. She's still acting stupid. I'm still videoing it.
Smart move, girl. Smart move.
How about ignorant? How about retarded? You look like a retard, bitch. They no fucking
Oh, she's still going at it.
He's jealous of the way it looks.
Now she claims she hit the car. No, Karen, I saw the whole video. She hasn't.
I'm gonna keep videoing you. You the one that walked up on me with the hammer. I sure am. No, I'm on drugs.
And she's still on the phone with the 911 operator. Does she know the 911 records all the calls?
Assault charges will make you lose your license.
911 officers record all those phone calls, Karen. And the 911 officer has you yelling, threatening the person.
Two disabled people she's threatened. She's yelling about being a nurse. The assault charges will make her lose her license. But she didn't come asking her for information. She squeezed through that spot. Yep.
She's still going on and screaming at the 911 officer. Oh, dear God.
She keeps saying we have 5 people. We have 2 children here with us. You know they're recording all that too, right? You want to phone the police, they're recording all your stupid shit too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yes, Karen, you're being definitely recorded.
Nobody said shit to her son. All right, here comes the daddy. All right, here comes the daddy. Tremaine, Celeste, get in the truck. Here comes the daddy. I don't think that's a pit, but either way, it's going. I said Tremaine and Celeste, get in the fucking truck. There's the cop.
Oh, we finally have a cop who showed up. That made pretty good timing. It's only been maybe about two and a half minutes since the call started.
Mother, shut the fuck up, you're not helping.
Now a guy just walked up who was walking his dog and Karen's yelling at him.
Mother, just shut the fuck up. You don't know that.
She just swung the hammer at the dog and the dog owner.
I never threatened nobody, so.
Aww, cop just grabbed Karen. Yes, I have a bonus one for you.
It's 2 o'clock on a Sunday.
2 o'clock on a Sunday at a Nike store. 2 o'clock on a Nike store Sunday. And Karen's going Karening. Karening. I think we need to make that a word if it ain't Karening. It's just Karen's going Karening. That'd be cool. Let's just call it Karen's going Karening. Karening. No. I want you. I would select you. Jesus criminy. Yeah, let's do that one. Karens versus parking enforcement, aka meter maids, people who give tickets. And that'll probably round us out for this episode.
I'm not going to have a happy Saturday because I am not happy.
I'm sorry about that.
I have always put that damn fucking tag in my window all the time. I am 65 years old. I got home after taking dinner someplace last night to some people whose grandkid died, and to my sons from Springville. And I got home around midnight. I think it was after. I forgot to put it in my window. And I am really mad. When I have a warning, I'm giving you guys a warning. I know this is your job, but you better know my car and you better know who I am. Because I'll make your life hell. I promise you that. I'm so furious about this.
So if we can see it in the vehicle, generally we'll let it go. So I mean,
Well, I'm not going to say generally. I'm going to say, please, make sure it's always let go.
Well, can you see that?
Okay.
so I mean, obviously I can see that.
Okay.
They would have to check the video footage. I mean, you can always appeal it and they can check it to see if they saw it. But
No, it wasn't there last night. Because I'll tell you something. The way our car's set up, it actually broke the top thing because it doesn't hook on.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. So we fixed it. Now it actually works better than it did.
mm-hmm.
And I always have it showing, always. But last night I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna threaten me with $1,000 and put a boot on my car?
So that's a
Take your
warning.
glasses off.
So well,
Please.
it's bright out here, ma'am. So I mean, the problem is
Okay.
that warning there is to tell you if you tamper with the boot or try to damage the boot, then we're going to charge you with a Class B misdemeanor and a $1,000 fine, as well as for the boot replacement and the boot fees. So that's just there to try and deter people from damaging our property. So, I mean, where that
We're in
permit...
the shade, by the way. It's not bright right now.
Okay, ma'am, whether I wear sunglasses outside or not is not a concern, okay? So, for me to take the boot off, it is a $60 fee. And our guys will check through the windows if we can see it in the open where we can see it, like where he was showing it. That is something that generally we'll see that and be like,
But
all right,
if
yeah,
they
you're good.
don't, and if they miss it, then we're just out another $65.
So, I mean, that's the risk you run if you don't have it somewhere that's very visible. So, but if we can see it, we'll leave the vehicle
I wish
alone.
I could see your eyes, because that's kind of chicken shit to talk to me and not take your damn glasses off.
I mean, I don't
Just
know why my glasses are a problem for you, ma'am.
I don't
Okay,
know
let's
why
let
it's
go of
a
that.
problem for
Let's go.
you.
Let's get this taken care of.
This for you, okay?
Bullshit.
Excuse me. Take it off.
So, after the fee's been paid, I'll take the boot off.
It's paid.
Yes, it is. Isn't that way
You
we're going
said you thought Asians were smart.
Yeah, and I was kidding. I was just
Does that sound kidding to you?
Yes, because everyone knows Asians are smart. It's like saying a lot.
Girl, you gotta get her the fuck out of here.
Yes.
I'm not moving.
One, you need to wear a mask. It's a
I'm
mandate
not-
now inside of our
it's not
store.
a law.
And we can refuse business.
Then let's call the police.
We can
I
call
will
the
wait here
police
for you
right
to
now.
call the police.
you can wait outside. You can wait
No,
outside.
I didn't do anything wrong.
to leave.
I did nothing wrong.
Now you're trespassing.
You did everything
Let's
wrong,
call-
Karen.
So I'd like
You can wait
to.
outside.
I'd like the
inside
police
of
to be
our
called.
business. And you need to wait outside
You need
for the
to
police.
let go, and I need to call the police. You can call the police.
You call the
No,
police.
I'm not.
Ma'am,
Police
please let
right
us
now.
go.
Excuse me.
Ma'am, please let this go.
You're not being excused,
I'm
Karen.
not doing anything.
Ma'am, please let this go.
Nope.
Karen,
Ma'am, please let
I'm.
this go.
get
Please let
walking.
me. Please
Yeah,
let
please
go.
let this go.
You're assaulting me.
I'm not assaulting
Yes,
you.
you
I'm
are.
not.
Yes,
I'm not
you
assaulting
are.
you. Ma'am, please let this go.
Nope.
Can you let this go?
Grabbing your cart, Karen, because you don't want to let go, it's not assaulting you.
I'd like you to call the law enforcement.
I am. It seems like you got a medical condition.
I would like you
It
to call
seems
law
like you have a
enforcement.
medical condition. Something's going on with you. Are
I
you okay?
have every right to be here.
No, ma'am,
Do
you're
not
refusing
anymore.
to leave right now.
That's right.
You're
I'd
being-
like you to call
you're
law
being
enforcement.
asked to leave.
Yeah, I'd like you to call law
Okay,
enforcement.
I will. Will you let this
Great.
go?
Nope.
May you please let this go, ma'am?
No, I will not.
Ma'am, may you please let this go?
I'm not
You're,
letting
you're being
anything
asked
go.
to leave.
And I'd like
Ma'am,
to be
you're being asked to leave.
accommodated. No,
You're not being
I have
accommodated.
every right to be here.
Ma'am, may you please let this go?
Please call the police.
Ma'am, please let this
You do not have the right to be at a private business, Karen.
go.
Please call the police.
Please, you can
Please call the
smile.
police.
You're not wearing a
Let's
mask.
call the police.
They asked you to leave.
I'm not leaving until you call the police.
Ma'am, please let it go.
Nope, I'm going to talk to law enforcement.
You can talk to them outside.
Outside,
You're being asked to leave.
Call law
against you
enforcement.
at the
You're
moment.
being
You are
asked to leave.
trespassing on our property,
And I'm-
Safeway property.
I'm sorry.
You can kick your ass outside and wait.
You can
We'll
call
call
law
the cops right
enforcement.
there.
Let's go, ma'am. Let's go.
You can call. I'm not
Ma'am,
leaving. I have
please
every
let us
right
go.
to be here.
Ma'am,
No.
why you ma'am, please let us go.
I'm a San Francisco native. I have
This
every
is
right
not
to be here.
San Francisco.
Excuse me. Please let go of my hand.
Hey, I like the Golden Gate City, but that does not give you the self-entitled bullshit to believe that your stuff don't stink.
Please, you're literally assaulting me. Now I'm going to make a police report.
I am not assaulting you.
Call police.
I don't think you
You're
understand.
touching me, and
I
I'm
don't
not
think you
comfortable with
understand
that.
what
Please
assaulting
let go of
Can
me.
you please?
Aww, poor baby needs safe space. She getting touched.
Let go of the property
You're
of Safeway.
literally
Can you let go of the
assaulting
property of Safeway?
Let go of
Can you
me.
let go of the property of
Let go
Safeway?
of me.
Can you let go of the...
No,
To the N-word?
let go of me. No, I didn't. Stop touching me. Call the police.
Come on.
Call.
And with that, we are going to have to leave the Karens for today. So that concludes part 2 of day 47 here from day 1. As you see, the storm is now only available in merchant mode only. We'll take a look at that, of course, before that concludes and disappears. But when we do return later tonight, we will be back with the second portion of the Master of the Macabre with us for Midnight in the Desert. So until then, until we meet in our overnight slot, have a great evening. Of course, it's always a great new world to release the Krakens and get us to those goals so both Boxy Overnexters and YouTube will pay attention so we can start sending out gifts. Till then, we'll see each other later tonight in the overnight.